Recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to this resolution, which would ignore the considered judgment of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and make stabilizing braces a favorite tool of mass shooters widely available without a background check. Today is one of those clarifying moments when the priorities of the Republican majority are on clear display. Instead of taking up legislation to reduce gun violence in America, we're here advancing a bill to ensure that more deadly weapons are in the hands of mass shooters in this country. What a disgrace. Mr. Speaker, gun violence continues to take the lives of more than 100 Americans every day. It changes how safe we feel in our schools and in our houses of worship. It reduces vibrant cities to somber headlines. It takes our loved ones, old and young, and leaves us with another anniversary of lives cut short and a community forever changed. Today, rather than stand up against gun violence, the majority plans to pass this bill so that they can yet again stand with the gun industry. Rather than support the law enforcement officers who are on the front lines of protecting our communities, the majority is attempting to weaken law enforcement by rolling back a rule created by the ATF meant to protect us from dangerous weapons. ATF is the law enforcement agency tasked with keeping guns out of the wrong hands and keeping our gun laws in line with congressional intent through rulemaking. In 1934, Congress passed the National Firearms Act, creating additional requirements to own certain especially deadly, dangerous firearms, like short-barreled rifles, which were widely used by violent criminals. Congress included short-barreled rifles because they combine the firepower of a rifle with the concealability of a smaller gun. But in recent years, the gun industry discovered a way to circumvent the restrictions of the National Firearms Act by selling stabilizing braces, an accessory that allows a pistol to be fired from the shoulder, turning it into a deadly yet concealable short-barreled rifle. In 2020, under the Trump administration, the ATF concluded the stabilizing braces were being widely used to create short-barreled rifles, and it published guidance regarding their use. But House Republicans cried foul. Just 4 days after the guidance was published, 90 House Republicans sent a letter to ATF and DOJ expressing their opposition, and just a few days later, the guidance was withdrawn. A few months later, under the Biden administration, the ATF revived its efforts to regulate stabilizing braces, and it published the final rule in January to ensure that our laws stay in line with the intent of Congress dating all the way back to 1934, when Congress decided that deadly, concealable short-barreled rifles should be subject to heightened regulation. But Republicans will stop at nothing to block the ATF from taking this simple life-saving measure, even though they know that blocking this rule could have deadly consequences. Mass shooters used guns with stabilizing braces to kill 9 people outside a bar in Dayton in 2019, to kill 10 people, including a responding police officer, at a grocery store in Boulder in 2021, to kill 5 people in an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs last year, and just this past March, to kill 6 people, including 3 children, at a school in Nashville, the 19th school shooting this year. The Nashville shooting occurred the day before the Judiciary Committee initially planned to mark up this resolution. So the majority, apparently sensitive to the optics, if not the substance of marking up this resolution, postponed the markup. But 3 weeks later, they decided that enough time had passed since 3 more families woke up without the child that they had taken to school, and that they were ready to advance a bill to enable more mass shooters to inflict death and destruction in our communities. I guess they thought we had forgotten the lives lost in that terrible tragedy. But we will never forget them, or the countless others who lose their lives to gun violence every day. Now, today, the majority seeks to pass this bill on the House floor, despite the deadly consequences. How many more lives will be lost because Republicans refuse to acknowledge that these weapons are a favorite of mass shooters for their ability to make a gun both deadly and concealable? How many more people have to die before Republicans will value the lives of our children over the profits of the gun industry? During the last Congress, Democrats put forth a range of solutions to prevent gun violence, to support law enforcement, and to solve violent crimes. but our colleagues across the aisle continue to push for unfettered access to every firearm and accessory imaginable. As Republicans continue to seek freedom from gun regulation, we will continue to see communities free from gun violence. I urge my colleagues to oppose this dangerous legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.